Oh my gosh, this is not Paris Procopus. I've been captured. He's been taken away to a place we don't know where. And I don't know why I'm doing this because it looks really, really, really silly. But that's life. Ooh, now I'm blinking at you. Sorry guys. Thought I'd have some fun tonight because man, you gotta laugh because crying doesn't do any good because it's a crazy world right now. And I haven't talked to you guys in a while, and it's been a few days, and there's so much going on. Let's see who we have on the show already. Sorry, it's Ridley Flynn. That's very odd. I'm in a very odd mood today. I can't help it. It's just the way it is. New and improved intro. Yeah, I got bored and started doing something new. And of course, Hilario likes this, so we may have the beginning of a show. And we got Carolina on. Hello, everybody. Hello, Hilario, mysterious person. You better do a 2-hour show. Well, we'll see how it goes. I might have Ed on in a little bit, that kind of thing. Honestly, my head is spiraling because there's so much out there going on right now. And I can't, for the life of me, figure out what's true, what's not. You're hearing so many things. And honestly, at this point, all I can say, there's no likely secret military operation happening. I don't mean to rain in your parade and that kind of thing. It just, I don't know, until I happen to see something a little more concrete, I don't anticipate there being anything else. That being said, there's some very interesting things going on right now, and that's things that don't make sense, things that make you go, what's going on? And one of the biggest things, I love it, Jay Schrader. You're sorry, guys. Jay's comment when's the internet. I gotta pick this up for a second. This kind of does look like Nancy Pelosi, doesn't it? It's kind of a new, improved Nancy Pelosi. So, I say, what does my gut say? Dawn, it's a great question. I don't know at the moment. It's everything. I'm torn because you have to try to separate what you want to happen versus what you know will happen. But there's a lot of strange things. You're right. The things that make you go WTF. Great point. The Rasmussen poll, Trump's approval rating is rising. I had to take that out. It was covering my face. You don't want to cover this wonderful Greek face, Jay. I mean, that's a lot of writing. I'll just give you a hard time, but think about it. According to the official story, Joe Biden becomes president on the 20th. And today is the 11th. Why in the hell would you try to impeach the president when he's basically out in a week? It makes no sense to me because the likelihood of being able to pull off a full impeachment, I guess technically you could really do it in a day. But what's the point? He's gone in a week. So there's two possible reasons for it. One reason is they're trying to prevent him from ever running for president again. So if they impeach him, he can't run for office again. Though I don't know if someone could be removed from office. I mean, I don't know. Maybe someone can run again. I don't know what the Constitution says on that. But they're trying to prevent him from doing that ever again. The other option is he knows something and is trying to come out with something, and they're trying to do everything in their power to prevent it. So it's their way of warning him. We warn you. And then they're trying to push Mike Pence. And I'm kind of struggling with this because Mike Pence, and it's no mystery, I've not been a Mike Pence fan since the very beginning. I understood he was necessary to shore up the conservative base for Donald Trump in 2016. You know, I never warmed up to him. I mean, he was a decent governor, and he seemed to be a very loyal vice president and that kind of thing. I think if there's any one thing I can fault Donald Trump for is setting unrealistic expectations of what Joe Biden can or cannot do as vice president regarding counting of the electoral college votes. Even though my guy would benefit from it, I would not support Mike Pence just saying, I declare Trump the winner. Because it's setting a dangerous precedent. It really is. Because, I mean, just think of year 2000, Al Gore decides, I'm the winner. You would have been pissed off. Even though the Electoral College, of course, said otherwise. And that what I would have supported is saying, hey, let's look into these 7 states. Let's send it back to their legislature to make sure everything's kosher and go from there. And let's listen to some of this evidence. That's all he had to say. And he chose not to, and to each his own. But everybody's going after him like he's a traitor to the country and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, he's in a precarious position. And now the Democrats are trying to push him into getting things started with the 25th Amendment. So, I just lost myself for a second, but I'm back. Oh, I didn't even, Ed, I'm so sorry. I have a guest sitting in the green room and he's just sitting there patiently waiting. And I'm talking to myself because, well, I'm just so awesome. And then I get to look at myself saying, is that me in there looking back at me? Lucky me. Yes. All right. Let's welcome Ed Delgado to the show.
Oh, man. Hell of a week, huh?
I'm just, everything is so surreal. It's so surreal. I've never heard of this. Impeaching a president a week before he's out of office.
Well, I have a theory as to why they're pushing that. I actually think what they're trying to do is that I think it's twofold. My God, I got something in my eye. Sounds terrible. I'm sorry.
But ladies, he's winking at you.
I am.
Better not be me.
I was going to say, I better be careful, or someone's going to think I'm suspect over here. But no, I think it's twofold why they're going. Yoda, who doesn't wink at Yoda? But I think it's twofold why they're going after him like this. I mean, I think number one, they actually want to get him out, legitimately want to get him out. They want to say they got him out. They don't want him to run his full term. And I think what they want to do is, in the process, as they're getting him out, they want to make sure that he never runs for office again. He's not a threat. And at the same time, we got to remember we're now dealing with 5th generational warfare. This isn't battlefields and stacking bodies. This is, let me set an example out of one powerful person, and then the rest of you are to fall in line.
Possibly. Yeah, and I think that might be a possibility. I've heard another theory bouncing around is that they're wondering if wondering what pardons are coming, and they're trying to prevent those. Like Julian Assange, Snowden, all those. Because both of those are still holding on to a treasure trove of information because that's their lifeline. That's the only reason they're on the top side of the soil, so to speak.
Well, it's interesting because I saw that they were talking about, wanting to impeach the president based on his pardons and other things like that. And it's like, wait a minute, you people are in Congress. You do understand that the president has two powers in particular that are absolute.
Pardons? Well,
Like you don't get to power of it's pardons and it's the nuclear football. There is no checks and balance. It's his call. And when that happens, end of story.
and you got Nancy Pelosi talking with the flippin' Joint Chiefs and whatever. What she has no power in that is absolute in the president is the commander in chief.
Do you know what we call that, right?
Sedition?
That is a military coup, an attempted military coup.
Uh-huh.
You don't need to watch Battlestar Galactica to know that. It happened there too, by the way.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite memes. They have Dirk Benedict and Sheckley or whatever her name is, who they both played Starbuck on the different Battlestar Galacticas. Oh. Yeah, and they're drinking. They have a Starbucks coffee cup, and they're in a Starbucks. So it says Starbuck and Starbuck having Starbucks at Starbucks.
I have not seen that one, but yeah. I can see it. Yeah,
it's quite humorous. But anyway, tangent. Sorry, guys, we're nerds. We can't help it. But
this is true.
What do you think? What do you make of this? And I've had several friends who are sending me constantly these videos, and I'm watching them and talking about, oh my God, it's happening. Trump signed the Insurrection Act. It's happening. Everything. There's a blackout in the Vatican and in Pakistan. Well, first of all, a blackout in Pakistan. That's like Wednesday to them. They have a horrible power grid out there. But I'm not seeing anything to back it up. That's the whole issue I have.
Well, and it's interesting. I just did a video on this here, and I just uploaded it to Odyssey. I put it up on Spreaker, and I was talking about this in particular. And I followed this QAnon stuff, I'd say, for about 1.5 years now. And some of the stuff is very interesting. And I got to tell you, depending on who you're listening to, you're going to get one hell of a story being woven to you. I mean, it's great storytelling.
You want to work into it.
A ton of work. But, and I'm going to find the link here. And I really want people to check it out because Alex Jones is interviewing this constitutional lawyer who's talking about QAnon as being a psychological operation to incite right-wing violence. And I don't know if it necessarily goes that far, but there are a lot of more people that are in the know than I am. And I posted a lot of stuff that's been Q related and stuff, but just because I post something doesn't necessarily mean I endorse it. I'm a big believer in what's called a 1% probability rule. Like there was this line that they had been pushing for a while now, 10 days of darkness. 10 Days of Darkness was saying that basically communications and everything was shut down for like 10 days, possibly power, everything else like that.
Hello.
Yeah.
We're communicating.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think things were supposed to shut down like yesterday around like 2 or 3, and that didn't happen either. But I believe in a 1% probability, and it might sound foolish, but if there's a 1% chance that something can happen, I have a plan for it. Like I literally have a zombie apocalypse plan in the event something like that were to happen. Which, by the way, if you look at the CDC website, they have a zombie apocalypse plan too. It mirrors a hurricane preparedness plan, but it's there. The thing is that you should always prepare for the worst, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and try to work things out. But a lot of this stuff that they push out here, it's Tom Clancy type of stuff. I mean, like, and I don't want to belittle the people that have really kind of gotten into it because I know some of these people. These are great people.
But it's almost like
what happens when you push people into a corner. When you push people into a corner, they're going to either cling on to anything that's going to provide hope, or they're going to push back in a way that is going to be so extremely violent that I don't think the left or the right understand that they don't want what's coming.
Mhm. Well, and that's the whole thing. And we're in our side, and we're more mainstream. I mean, yeah, you're conservative. I'm probably, I think you're probably more conservative than I am in a lot of things, or that kind of thing. But we're both kind of more mainstream guys. I don't know what your stance is. I haven't heard or read. I'm assuming, but I was devastated when I found out about the people going into the Capitol. That bugged me to no end, because I had flashbacks to Madison, and I was pissed then. I was pissed now for two reasons. First of all, no true conservative would desecrate something so strongly symbolic of our country.
Sure.
Now, do I think it was, I think there were some Antifa agitators there, because you notice there were no Antifa protesters to be seen.
Correct.
Yeah, because they were camouflaged very well in Trump gear. But I'm sure there were a lot of people that followed them in like lemmings.
Yep.
And I just, then it reminded me, not every Trump supporter was conservative.
That's correct.
And that's where it's like, okay, so you get a lot of people emotional, but it's like, do you guys, nobody looks at the big picture. They're all tactical and reactive, and they don't look at, do you realize that everything Trump accomplished in the past 4 years just got pissed down the drain? Because this is he's going to be remembered for.
I don't necessarily know if he's going to be remembered for this.
Until I'm not done yet.
Break it down. Break it down, brother. Break it down.
No, they tore down his legacy by doing that. And I think it was by design. However, their actions since then, I'm talking about the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, now that this 25th Amendment, get Trump the hell out, let's impeach him. Did they not learn their lesson? What they're doing, and what one of my fans mentioned earlier in a post earlier about Trump's poll numbers are rising, and it's not slow. And it just, I think people are recognizing, okay, this is, I'm not saying there weren't Trump supporters in there, but now their actions, all they had to do, Joe Biden had an opportunity to be, pardon the expression, but to be presidential.
Yes.
He should have said, I disagree with this impeachment. He's gone in a week. We have a transition of power. He's agreed to it. Let's move on.
Yep.
No, he had to double down on it. Oh, he's a sick man. Let's get him out of here. That's
well, look at the comparison that they're doing, with the Trump supporters and with Trump himself. I mean, they were comparing people to Goebbels. I mean, they're comparing, and I think what shocked me the most wasn't so much the riots that happened there. 2020 should have taught us social proof is just bad in general. I had several offers to go down to the protest and everything that day, and I turned it down because I had to work, and my spidey senses told me, you know what, not the fight I want to take. However, the thing that kind of bothered me about it, initially was when you saw everybody, and all it took was probably just a few agitators to go in there, a few bad actors from the right or Antifa, and you riled everybody up. The best case of social proof that I can provide to you in recent memory, because you remember when you were a kid, you were always told, listen, Paris, if your friends jumped off a cliff, would you go jump off? You're like, you sit there like, no.
That's why I said called them lemmings. Yeah.
But the thing is that you would. Most people would. Most people are not strong enough mentally to not want to go with the crowd. And none of us can deny it, because you look what happened during the toilet paper shortage.
Oh my gosh. We were on a roll then.
Thank you. That was well played.
I'm here all week.
Well played.
Yoda approves. Thank you.
That's good.
So, yeah, but the toilet paper, but even, okay, let's compare riot to riot.
Go on.
Okay. Yeah, there were some people breaking a couple windows and stuff like that and trying to break in, and the morons sitting in Speaker Pelosi's chair and stuff like that. Come on, for crying out loud. That's just idiotic. And then of course, they're gonna. Well, he was on camera anyway, but of course, he took a selfie and whatever he did. And I hope they do prosecute the Nimrod.
Rightfully
then,
so.
On the flip side, you've got the young lady that was shot down.
Yep,
that was killed,
and the body count's now up to 6.
Is it 6 now? Because but I keep looking at that first one. The first one that came out was the woman who was shot.
Ashley Bobbitt.
Yep. She entered into a protected perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel for her. I feel for her family. It's tragic. She should not have been there. It just, especially that was Speaker Pelosi's office. The windows were outside Speaker Pelosi's office. Mm-hmm. It's a big office, but yeah, you've got number 2 in presidential succession. I don't know if she was in there or not. There were congressmen in there. I don't know if one was her, but because they were sheltering in place. But I'm telling you, their orders are clear. The Capitol Police, their orders are clear.
Well, it was terrible. 5 people died. There was several people from medical things. You had one officer who died on the scene who was actually hit on the head he was beaten to death. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another officer just took his own life.
Oh, wow. Well, they had the guy who was beaten to death. There was a guy standing there with like a back the blue flag. The symbol. Once again, I can't see a true conservative disrespecting law enforcement like that.
I can, only to the extent that, again, let's take 2020. Let's take everything since March of 20. I guess when I say take things in context, we need to look at it from March of 2020 moving forward. We've had the left demonize law enforcement, and they've been all about defund the police, and we've been on our side saying back to blue. And when the riots would die down, what would happen? Well, these governors and these mayors and other health officials would okay, we need to lock you down. Don't go anywhere. Don't open your business. Well, if somebody would open their business, what would law enforcement do? They would enforce these unconstitutional edicts, not laws, but edicts. Mm-hmm. Well, it's no reason you're getting pushback from the right now, and you're going to see more people on the right. Actually, it's really weird dynamic, because the right's going to be backing away from back in the blue, and the left is going to start trying to champion it. And it's kind of mind-boggling, because the left is only doing it because it's going to back their side, because they're in control. That's it.
And it comes down to fair weather friends and stuff like that. It just, they are.
Who's going to pay for it the most, right? The black community.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that actually had the legitimate gripe, and I say legitimate loosely, because I think, the BLM crowd, I think I broke it down into 3 different sections, but the one that I want to focus on most are the ones that actually have a legitimate gripe that, hey, listen, we need police reform.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But we can't have the discussion because everybody's too busy shouting at each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And the ones suffering are the ones in the middle that are, being robbed, mugged, killed, everything else.
Yes.
And it's sad. And it's like, and people don't realize it. The bigger issue is, okay, the left wants to defund the police. At this point, this is their baby.
Yep.
What do they think is going to happen? Okay, you get rid of Milwaukee police, Waukesha police, Ozaki or county sheriff, and all that. You get rid of all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's either going to be, mass hysteria, because everybody's going to be marking their territory with gangs and stuff like that. And how do you control it? Then all of a sudden, we're one step closer to a national police force, which was by design something that the founding fathers did not want. And we know why we didn't want that, because just look at 1930s Germany.
Yep. It's, you take a look at all this here and then you wrap it all up. I think the thing that really bothered me, the biggest thing was the deaths. That one bothered me the most.
Because they died for nothing.
It was pointless. And then, of course, you got, the blow to conservatism, and we'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
But the reaction from the media was absolutely astounding. It's like they had no context of history. What did they say?
Arizona iced tea. Sorry, I had to do my, in case they're wondering what I'm drinking.
You got to get the promo in there, very important.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but I love it. No. We're actually have a conversation where we can hear each other. This is awesome.
I know. Computer helps, But look at what the mainstream media has framed this as. And their framing is like just diabolical. I think I saw, I'm not sure if it was the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. I know it was a Gannett paper, but they put the worst day in American history at the Capitol. I was like, did you forget about the Black Panthers that came in with rifles? Did you forget about, the congressmen that have gotten shot in Congress? Did you forget about any of that stuff?
Yes, Scalise, when he was shot and almost killed by a Bernie supporter. So that's why they don't remember that.
No. But if you're looking to lock down, and don't be surprised because I saw an article of this, and I don't know how fringe this is. I don't know how credible it is, but I'll just mention it. They're going to want to try to designate so-called mega rallies as domestic terrorists. Don't be surprised if you see that.
Yep.
And it's interesting because the actual domestic terrorist, Antifa, well, we're not going to say anything about that. We're just going to it's just an idea. Okay. I've never had my ass kicked by an idea.
Well, we know all those Trump rallies and Trump supporters that literally burned down cities. And then remember when the Trump supporters had their own city within a city? They declared it an independent country. Oh, wait. That wasn't the Trump supporters. That was the Democrats. I mean, it was Antifa free. It wasn't even the Democrats. It was flipping Antifa, but the Democrats were silent about it.
Well, you know that if like Trump supporters had cordoned off and had their own little autonomous zone, it would have been like a Traz. They would have branded it Trump and had like gold gilded letters and stuff, the whole bit. And they probably would have had a casino in there too. Probably would have been very profitable.
Yeah, it probably would have been. It would have looked beautiful. It would have the greatest barricades in the world, that kind of thing. They'd be beautiful.
It'd be huge. Huge. And nobody from China.
Yeah. Look, I want President Trump to remain president because I think he's done a lot of good things. And that's the whole thing. I read Ann Coulter did an article on wrote an article. She was a huge Trump fan. She wanted Trump. She was the first one to come out publicly of any prominence to say Donald J. Trump will win and all that stuff. And then like 2 years ago, she soured on him, saying he accomplished nothing. Yeah. Whatever. She's entitled to her opinion. But one thing I agreed with her on is the Trump team. If there's any such thing of anything that was failed on, the Trump team failed this election cycle. And it wasn't because they didn't get enough votes out, because damn it, Trump grew his base by 11, 12,000 million people. And they did all that. But all this stuff, like in Wisconsin, we knew back in February, March, April that this, when COVID and said the mail-in ballots were bad news and stuff like that. And the Republican Party did nothing of Wisconsin. The president, the team Trump did nothing.
Right.
And they wait. Every time you wait till after the fact to scream about election fraud, you can never prove it.
No,
because it's already commingled with the rest of it.
Well, I think the hardest part to take when it comes to election fraud and irregularities, and I think this is part of what resulted in last Wednesday, and what's going to be a product of what's going to come into the future, is that you're going to have, because of the courts in general, from lower courts to the Supreme, and the Biden campaign saying, and the Democratic Party saying, you know what, we don't need to investigate this. Biden won fair and square, end of story, end of discussion. You didn't even want to give us the time of day to hear what the complaints were. I think the vast majority of Trump supporters, they may not have liked the outcome, But if you said that, you know what, the Dominion voting systems, yes, there was some irregularities. We did an investigation and it changed the numbers. It flipped a state or two. But you know what? In the end, Biden still won. The vast majority of Trump supporters would have accepted it, wouldn't have liked it, would have run with it. The problem is now is because a lot of people on the right have said, you know what, this is some BS. We're saying he's not our president. Now the left is reacting. This is beyond hyper partisan. Like I'm hyper partisan. They are like they're going straight up authoritarian. Like you want to talk precedent? This isn't fascist. This isn't socialist. We're going to see something this planet has never seen before. And I'll be honest, it scares the hell out of me.
1984. It's alive and well, and I just to control what people think, you begin with controlling what they say, and that's where they're starting. Now you can't say this. Now you can't say MAGA. Now you can't say literally. There's a couple things we can't say tonight because we can't talk about.
No,
you can't say any other. You can say the F word, but you can't say any other F word if you know what I mean. You know.
Well, you can say that other F word in the context of reporting, but not
right
heavily espousing. But you know. We'll call them irregularities. But the thing is, though, if you had given them their day in court to deal with it, let's do one better. It's IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, okay? If you given the Trump campaign its day in court for IBS, then I think if you had weighed the merit of it instead of just eliminating it on process, a lot of your problems would have been solved, and then Biden could truly claim to be the great uniter. But he can't do that now.
And that's the whole thing that just didn't, the dog didn't hunt. You know, in 2016, when you had the crackpot from the Green Party wanting to do recounts, it's like, go ahead, do recounts. If you find something, I'll be the first to help you, but go ahead, do the recounts and whatever. I get that. I have no problem with anybody challenging anything because you know what? If you're a candidate, it's your right to. But you know what? I didn't have to count. I didn't have to find a single vote that was cast incorrectly. I'm careful at what I'm saying because I don't want to get my show cut off.
I understand. I do the same thing.
Yeah, but let's assume I'm making the assumption there's not a single vote incorrectly cast. Okay, it was still unconstitutional because of the process to change the way people voted. For one, so the Constitution is very clear. The legislature determines how the votes are distributed, how the voting is done in each state. Okay. And, you don't need any votes to figure it. Those were unconstitutionally cast.
Right.
That's it. That's what they should have gone to court with right there.
I think the problem, like here in Wisconsin, for example, we got the government, the GAB. Is that what it is?
The election commission.
The election commission. That's because it was the GAB before, and then it became the election commission. But I can see where a court might say, you know what? That's true. The legislator has the authority, but you ceded that power to the election commission. You acquiesce that power. So, wow, you flipped it back and forth, huh?
I flipped that merger.
That merger that happened for StreamYard is working out nice.
It was fun
but I can see where the court would say, you know what? No, you acquiesce that power to somebody else to manage those affairs. But you got to deal with it until the state legislature decides to deal with it, as it should have been.
And once again, the state legislature in Wisconsin it didn't do crap. And let's be honest, Pennsylvania, their process, this Act 77 or whatever it is they're talking about, that was changed in November of 2019. That was way before COVID.
Yep.
They had plenty of time to challenge that. President Trump, to his discredit, he bitched a lot about, oh, there's voter fraud coming. Well, what's your team doing about it? You should have had lawyers on in every state by like June and get everything in there. And then, Jay Schrader says the right thing. Rob in Boston, Wisconsin is hiding under his desk right now. He didn't do anything. Why? Because he did not want Donald Trump. I know people who were hired by the Republican Party of Wisconsin and had their initiation or whatever, the orientation or whatever, talking about, well, we really want to focus on 2022 and 2024. I'm talking last summer. So their goal was never, a lot of people in the Republican Party establishment, their goal was never to win this year.
I have a question for you, and I want to go so many different directions.
I'm a Virgo. I'm 5'8", and I will on the first date. No, what are we talking about?
All right, if I swung that way, I would totally be up on there. Like, we don't even need a first date. Like,
go ahead.
But what makes these folks think that they're going to be? Oh, I don't know. What makes them think that they're going to be viable in 2022 and 24? Just in the state of Wisconsin, what makes them think that they're even going to be viable? Because all they have shown us up until this juncture is they are weak, they are feckless, and they are pathetic. They constantly try to be liked and loved by the left. And for what? So they can be the punching bag, so they can be the road bump on the road.
They don't lead. They don't lead on anything.
No.
Well, and this excuse said, oh, Tony Evers is just going to veto it. So what? Let him veto something and let him own it. It just bothered me. We saw what was going to happen from the very first budget when they gave him $500 million for the schools right out of the gate, when they already had increased. I mean, Act 10 is a complete failure. For all intents and purposes, Act 10 is a complete failure because by the time Evers took office, they were spending more money on schools than they were before Scott Walker took office because they wanted the Democrats to like them. But you know what? What's not going to make them viable? You've got a lot of leaders in the party right now that are already pushing away from Trump. And that's a huge, huge mistake because we can look at the numbers. Let's assume all things are kosher. No offense to my Jewish friends out there, but let's assume all things are good with the election. Trumpism won.
Yes.
Not only did he gain 11, 12 million votes, but the Republicans damn near picked off the House of Representatives. They won seats. They gained seats, and they were supposed to lose like 20 or whatever. And they actually won the report that's out there that ranks the House seats and stuff like that. They had 29 that were in play. They won all 29 of them.
Yeah.
They almost kept the Senate. And if it wasn't for that damn runoff, just think, what's his name? Purdue won by 88,000 votes in November.
Well, let's look at that, for example. A lot of people were kind of surprised by some of the states and how close it was, and none of the pollsters got it right. I don't think the Trump campaign certainly screwed up on a number of different things. And I think the first 2 years, I'll give the Trump administration a pass in the sense that, you had obstructionists like Paul Ryan, John McCain, and several others that held up his agenda. But during the last 2 years, what was the fault? I get it. Democrats had the House, but you could have done something through executive action on Section 230 on voter fraud. You knew it was all coming. Why didn't you put more money, like you said, attorneys and everything else on the floor doing things? But they can do that.
Yeah. And I have to being a political novice, he was probably ill-advised by his advisors too. So, you can blame the team. You just don't know how much of that was his doing because he might not have known he could do that. Who knows? Maybe but did he try or whatever? We'll never know. But I think, I mean, everybody said, I was kind of holding out hope that Joe Manchin would, at least on the big items, at least be that tie-breaking vote so that Kamala Harris can't be the tie-breaking vote. But now it looks like he's going to support Puerto Rico statehood and DC statehood.
I'm actually glad you brought that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're Puerto Rican. What the hell?
I actually think there's a case for statehood for the U.S. territories, and it's interesting because if you look at Guam, American Samoa, and Puerto Rico in particular, and even D.C. for that matter, D.C. they have a congressional representative, but it's a non-voting representative, as is the case with the other 3 territories, and all these folks, with the exception of D.C., they cannot vote. Like I used to live on Guam, and on Guam, had I changed my driver's license and I was, like a, citizen of Guam, I couldn't vote in a federal election. I could if I maintained my Wisconsin driver's license, which I did. But the thing is that if you look at it, these folks in these territories, they are literally half citizens. They need to have full representation in Congress, in the Senate. Yes, there's, the thing with taxation and everything else that goes along with it and any other monies that come along federally, but it's either cut them loose.
Puerto Rico had the chance, but they voted against it. The people of Puerto Rico voted against it. So they didn't want that because they know they have it good just being a territory. They get all the benefits of correct. Being American, but they're not having the high taxes that way or whatever. But let's be honest here. The Democrats don't give a rat's ass about the Puerto Ricans or
no, they don't.
They just want they want the 4 additional reliable Democrat Senate seats, and especially if they get DC. Now, the only way, partially, the only way I would support this would maybe require that they have one of each party, at least for now, and then eventually it'll all shake out, whatever. But damn well.
But how do you do that legally?
Because I think what they do declare statehood, and then the governor of Puerto Rico then would appoint senators like you would in a state if there's an open seat. I think that's how it would happen. But you would have, but in this case, they're all going to be Democrats, damn well. And that's the only thing that the Democrats care about. It's power. It has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
They're not going to do anything to help Puerto Rico. But Washington, D.C. is an interesting thing. You realize that it's specifically spelled out in the Constitution.
Which would require a constitutional amendment.
Yep. There's no way they can make Washington, D.C. a state. But they can make it a state long enough to do a lot of harm because it would have to get taken to court and all that stuff. And then the Supreme Court would have to rule on it. And God only knows how that's going to go now.
Well, in order to get to that, too, I mean, it's amazing how fast something can go up through the chain, up to the Supreme Court. Or it's also amazing how slow it can take to get up to the Supreme Court. And something like that, I would think, would need to be expedited, but they're going to pull out every stop in the book to try to hold that up.
Yeah. Well, I think for the most part, I think the judges on the Supreme Court, they don't want anything to do with the election. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Did you see that story about John Roberts blowing up when they were in session together?
I heard.
I'm not going to be responsible for these riots. You shouldn't be concerned with the riots. What you should be concerned with is the rule of law.
Is it the riots? I just think in the back of their head they didn't want to. Most of the I would, giving the benefit of the doubt of a couple of them, they didn't want to, because even remember was it the Pennsylvania decision that was officially 7-2 to not hear the case, but in reality it was 9-0 because Clarence Thomas, which Alito joined, they said they have standing.
That was Texas. Yes.
Yeah, but Texas, the Texas case, they had standing, but they still wouldn't have been able to get a remedy. And I looked at it, so it would have been 9-0. And I'm sorry, with the history that Alito and Thomas have, I hold them. I have a lot of respect for them, so I'll respect that decision. But they still think that the idea of standing was bullshit. So that's God. I miss Scalia. Scalia would have ripped them a new a-hole.
When I found that particular ruling to be interesting because they gave them the formula to give them standing, but they didn't do anything with it. And unfortunately, at that particular juncture, this is when you had, Sidney Powell released the Kraken. By the way, the Kraken, Squidward, that's the Kraken. But, you got Sidney Powell going out here with a little bit of crazy, and then Lynn Wood, who, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. The guy's been solid as hell. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, dude, you're claiming all this crazy stuff, right? Where is it?
Yep. Oh, the blackout. We're gone. Where are we? Okay. So, yeah, gotta love technology. No, but that's what has happened to Lynn Wood. Because I was paying attention to him on Parler. Well, that's another subject, but paying attention to him on Parler, and I could see him just more and more degenerating into something. And I don't know. Yes. Yeah, I want what he's saying to be true in the worst way. So, I would listen to these things. It's like, yeah, that'd be really cool if it happened, but it ain't happening. And like tonight they declared a state of emergency in Washington, D.C. But before I reacted, all I did was post it on Facebook saying interesting. That's all it is. It's interesting. I think it's some people are saying, yes, they're getting ready to do the, close the hammer or whatever. I honestly think it was just preemptive for the inauguration next weekend and next week or whatever. And I don't know. I don't even know if it's possible to do what people are thinking they want to happen at this point.
Well, here's the problem. And I don't think there's people on the right and there's people on the left that I think are clamoring for some action. They want to get the boogaloo going. They want to get to something crazy. The problem is that most of these folks, outside of going to the range, outside of maybe some fisticuffs. God, I feel old saying that.
Well,
I don't think a lot of these people realize what they're looking at. I don't think they realize that you don't want the potential of what's going to come down the road if that is to come to pass as far as a civil war is concerned. And the way I see it, it's almost, I hate to think that all roads are going to lead to Rome. But on one hand, if Biden takes office come January 20th, he becomes president. We become America in name only, and we have a compromised president. If Trump retains presidency through the Insurrection Act, however you want to frame that, we still become America in name only. And in trying to fight to preserve the Constitution, enacting martial law and everything else, you have to violate the Constitution. And do you ever truly come back from that? I would argue that you don't.
And that's the struggle I have with this at this point. You know what? I think there were nefarious activities happening on election night.
No doubt.
I think the Trump team failed to bring the goods before the election even happened.
Absolutely.
I think we got outsmarted.
We got outsmarted. We got outsmarted and we got outworked. And a lot of people on the right don't want to believe that because what they see is that Joe Biden had, what did he have, a rally with 10 people? And it's funny as hell. Don't get me wrong. They're sitting around circles. But what you didn't see was all hysterias going on there, door knocking. What was it? What was that? Something in the park that they did out in Madison.
Yep, the democracy in the park,
That's
completely
what it was.
illegal, and not a damn case brought to the courts by Robin Voss or the election commission, the Republicans on the election commission. I mean, it just. Oh, I'm beyond livid. I want Voss out of that speaker's chair in the worst way. Yes, Robin, if you're watching, and with all due respect, I know you. You're a nice guy, but you're a crappy Speaker of the House. You need to get out.
Well, look at what happened over the summer, though. There was no special sessions. Nothing was done. And why? Because you didn't want to stir the pot because you want to get elected within your district. And this is one of those things that just, it irks me to no end because I've seen his responses and he's like, well, you're not in my district, so why should I care? You're the damn Speaker of the Assembly. So anybody in the state of Wisconsin has a complaint, you have an obligation to hear them, to respond. And if you can't do the damn job, get somebody else who can. I am so sick of these people.
Yep, and I'm not too thrilled with our new majority leader in the Senate either right now.
Which one do we have there?
I'm very concerned. I forgot the name of it. I forgot the name of him and stuff like that. Hey, don't get me wrong. I had issues with Fitz too, but at least Fitz for the most part. I mean, the Senate was doing its job all summer long last summer. It was the Assembly that was refusing to vote on things. So. I just, and I still look back, in hindsight's 2020, I look back at, we had 8 years of solid Republican rule, conservative ruling roost. We got Act 10 out of the gates, which was a good idea at the beginning. It made the Democrats look like a bunch of morons because of their running away and all that crap. We saw that. We got a very crappy version of voter ID passed, and we suffered greatly because of it in many state elections. LeMahieu, that's the guy's name. We got right to work, which was it was a watered down version, but it's something. And then we got reduction. They held the line on property taxes. I'll give them credit on that. But we have
up until this year.
Yeah. Well, solid conservative ruling and stuff like Common Core. We're still the law of the land in the state. Things like that. They didn't do anything to help. They gave out all this money to the schools and didn't get any accountability. Test scores are still in the floor. And then you got all these school spending and all these poor cities. Although, I'm mad about all the referendums. In Wauwatosa, we had a big referendum, $125 billion, which the real cost is going to be over 300. But I think the cities should be responsible for deciding what to do with school funding and stuff like that. It shouldn't be the state. I think it should be more in the local level. So I actually don't mind the referendums, but the problem is the state's still getting its piece of the pie too. If they would give up their piece of the pie, then let's do these referendums and let the city, if they want a new gymnasium and they want to fund it, go for it.
Well, I'm kind of forever amazed by the fact that, you take a look at these, and when you take a look at public schools as a whole, you got to kind of break them down because you got the city ones, the suburbs, you have the, rural ones. And when you take a look at what's going on in the city, that's where the bulk of, obviously your population is. Well, that's also where all the scores are being dragged down. And it fascinates me because what ends up happening is they spend more money per student in the inner cities, get worse results, but they are top heavy in their administrators. Got like this Cadillac plan, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Meanwhile, you go out to the suburbs, you go out into the rural areas at a fraction of the cost of per student. They're getting better test results, pumping out better students, have greater teacher satisfaction, less politics, and politics is involved, don't get me wrong, but you have less politics in those areas than you do within the cities where, what do you got over there? The National Teachers Association, and there's a couple of them other ones out there, but obviously they have their agenda and they are the loudest.
They're the loudest
And
and the best funded too. In Milwaukee,
because they're killing us with taxes.
and Milwaukee didn't do shit with Act 10. They didn't. They just avoided it the whole time. They laid off some teachers, and they actually, I remember that they actually tried to. They had a vote. The teachers that weren't laid off had the vote on whether or not to give up some of their pay to help keep the teachers that were laid off. So much for solidarity. They voted no, So, and Milwaukee, the problem with Milwaukee, you're exactly right. It's the administration. It's not the rank and file teachers, and the city of Milwaukee. And I don't know what it is like, what it's like in Madison, but in Milwaukee, they actually have empty school buildings that they could sell. They'd make millions off of these buildings. Yeah. I think there's 8 of them. I mean, they could probably raise 200 million or more off of these buildings. The teachers union will not allow it to happen because they don't want competition, because it would get gobbled up by private schools. And isn't it interesting how private schools could do very well in old buildings with, very hard to manage infrastructure? But public schools can't do it.
It's interesting because in a past life, I used to work for a university, and I used to have some really good conversations with people within the educational systems, and they were very disaffected by just the public school system as a whole. And some of them really, they had the funding, they had the backing, they had the people, but they were told that they could not buy any of these schools. And it's been like a rotation of schools for some time, but they couldn't open a school to fund a charter school because MPS would not sell to them. And it was amazing. It was like, wait a minute, you have an opportunity to provide a better education, a better system, a better way of life for people within the inner city that have been clamoring it. They're hungry, they are thirsty for it, and you're turning it down. Why? Because you don't want competition against your failing, ailing, and pathetic public school system.
Right. And that's so I think in talking with Tommy Thompson a couple of times and stuff like that, I think he feels that that's kind of one of his biggest regrets, was not being able to get it done, where they wanted to divide Milwaukee public schools into, I think it was 4 or 6 different districts, which would have helped. You get rid, you technically have a little more bureaucracy, but they would have been easier to manage and all that stuff, and it just didn't happen. But I want to reel it back in, because we're getting off field right now. Mega has a post here breaking. Twitter says it has suspended 70,000 plus accounts that were engaged in sharing harmful QAnon associated content. Okay.
Harmful, huh?
Yeah. What do they deem harmful? Yeah. If someone's saying, yeah, let's go, let's go get them and round them up and all that. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I have no problem with that. That's inciting violence. President Trump, in his speech at the near the Capitol, said, and we're going to walk over there peacefully and let our voices be heard.
Yep.
And they're saying he incited these riots. Yeah, he might have. Everybody's got culpability here. He's got a little bit, because, like I said, the unrealistic expectations of Pence's powers as vice president.
Right.
In my opinion, other people differ, but I think he needed to challenge those state votes. That's what I think he should have done. But there's people that wanted him to just out and out say, I declare Trump the winner. No, because what's to stop the next Democrat from doing that? In 2004, do you want Kamala Harris, even though the Republican wins, you want Kamala Harris saying, well, no, I'm president.
Well, here's an interesting take. Here. And I want to go back real quick on the education thing, and I'll tie it in here. So in the chat room here, take a look at CJ's comment here. He mentioned that the biggest problem in school, we keep lowering the standards. Now you have the No Child Left Behind. And so they just show up and you graduate. Social promotion. Now, this was, I believe, as a result of Bush 43. And I think this is important to note, because what did it do? It created this standard. Well, you know what? Maybe I show up. Maybe I don't. I'm still going to pass. This is going to be on steroids going forward. under this current administration. But let's go into, what we're seeing here on Twitter and everyone getting blocked and the great purge from the, Blackout Friday, which was just astounding. They are suppressing. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. I was going to say they are suppressing my speech, my ability to get information that I want, because I want to hear what the president has to say. And I follow him on Twitter. And for them to decide, we decided that the president is no longer relevant, so we decided that we're not going to let him talk. He's the leader of this country, and now you're saying no. And I agree with them. They are a private company, but where I disagree is they're not selling a widget here. They're a conduit for communication between the masses. And I'm sorry, they're more like a public utility.
I was going to say they smell awfully like either a publication or Ma Bell. If you remember that from back in the 80s.
Not a publication. That's where I differ with President Trump. Yeah. They should not get rid of Section 230, because what that'll do, it'll have the negative effect. If they get rid of Section 230, hear me out. If they get rid of Section 230 and basically say you're a publisher, you're responsible for content, there will be no content providers because they're responsible. They don't want to be held responsible for what I say or what you say, or God forbid one of the QAnons say, or one of the the ultra left-wing ones. So nobody's going to get the publish on there. What they need to do is take Section 230 and modify it so they cannot modify it, turn them into a utility, and they cannot censor. They can't discriminate or censor. I still think they should still have the power to get harmful speech out. There is harmful speech. I get that.
No doubt.
But speech I disagree with is not by definition harmful.
Well, and it's interesting because I remember growing up in a time where, what we were taught was, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend your ability to say it.
Yep.
And it was fascinating because, hate speech, political speech, I actually love all that. I mean, you want to be a racist bigot, go nuts. I mean, just give me your best. I don't care. But then again, I'm not going to argue with you, because most of the time, once you kind of get to that point where it becomes personal attacks and, just levying all kinds of crazy stuff, at that point, what's the point of arguing? But no, Section 230, this idea of getting rid of it, I don't think anybody who goes along with that understands the ramification of it. Like you said, you're going to eliminate all the content creators out there. You're going to get a very select few. You're going to get PewDiePie and whatever legacy media decides to put their stuff on YouTube, since nobody's watching them on actual TV. Nothing against PewDiePie.
Yeah, or the people that are, I can't believe there's people making $10,000-$12,000 a month for reacting to anime cartoons. It's like, are you kidding me? Really? So they're literally watching a cartoon that was created by someone else, and they're profiting off of this. All they do is dim they bring back the screen a little bit, make it a little darker so you can't see it. And then they're, oh, I'm crying. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's it just, I'm gonna start reacting.
Making money.
I should start reacting to Pelosi speeches.
I'm sure you'd make some pretty good money on that one too. The Greek reaction.
Yeah, I'd last about a half a minute. All I would say is, but oh wow. Yeah, check this out. This is right. Censorship is telling a man he can have a steak or he can't have a steak just because a baby can't chew it.
Kind of true.
Mark Twain. True. And this is the important one here, right here. This is the most important one. Guys, read this. When you tear out a man's tongue, you are not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say. And therein lies the problem. I think there's more fear than anything because they are desperate to get him out of office.
Why do you think they're so desperate?
because they want. I think he has information. I
D-class.
really do. Either declassifying or he's going to pardon the right people that are going to declassify. And I think he has information. They're petrified of it. And I don't know. And there's a lot of people that are blaming Trump on, the fact that we lost Georgia was because of Trump, because the focus was on him and not on them. You know what?
That's not why.
You mentioned earlier, Stacey Abrams is an arrogant witch with a capital B. I can't stand a woman, but you know what? She works her ass off. Good, bad, or indifferent. She worked her ass off in the inner cities and stuff like that, getting that vote out. It may not be pretty, but she did it. We got outworked. Yeah. Purdue, Loeffler, and I'm sorry, Loeffler was a lousy candidate.
Yeah.
But I would love to have them. Believe me, but they weren't the ideal.
Well, here's the other thing that I think a lot of people are missing as it relates just to the overall November, election. People didn't account for the mass migration of people from the inner cities out into the suburban rural areas. They left because of COVID. They left because of the high taxes. Look at the mass exodus happening out of California.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and there's a ridiculous law that it's under consideration at this point, where once it's passed, and chances are it will, if you are in California for 60 days in a calendar year, they will tax you for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm. They're doing
That's how much they are hurting for cash. What's that?
They're doing something like that in New York too, I think.
Don't they already have something similar to that? I mean, not to that length, but I believe there's some. No, with New York, I think it's like they tax you based on how many days you're there, but it's like ridiculously high.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's like the primary reason that Limbaugh left.
Yeah, he left years ago. Yeah, yeah, and that's going to be. I mean, we're heading for a major loss, and the impact that Rush Limbaugh had.
God,
I mean that's and you know what? I went through a span there where I just kind of stopped listening to him because I got frustrated. It's like you have all the answers and run for damn office yourself and prove to us what the answers are. Get out there, run. You got to live in. I know I should probably listen to myself on that one, but you too, Ed. But it's still. But he was always I always read his stuff and stuff like that. All he ever did was just tell the truth. Sometimes it was hard for people to hear. Oh, he's a racist because you disagree. It's like, no, he's not. And I loved it when they went after him about racism. And Bo Snerdley, his producer, I forget what his real name is, but he's a Black American, and he said, he's worked for Rush Limbaugh for almost 30 years, and he never once felt like he was a racist.
Right. I think it's amazing. That's kind of like the default, though, where shouting racist no longer has any meaning because, of course, that's their default response. You're a racist. You're a bigot. You're a xenophobe. Well, you know what? How about this? If anybody knows me personally, you ought to hear half the things that come out of my mouth. And honestly, would that make me a racist, or am I immune because I have a darker pigmentation in my skin? I'm the first person to tell you I'm a bit of an a-hole. Point blank. Anybody who knows me knows that's true.
A bit?
Well, by a bit, I mean a lot. But the thing is that I try to temper that, by being an a-hole with actual proof. You know what I mean? So you're going to take those words and they're going to mean nothing. Look at how much they've thrown around words like fascist and everything else. It doesn't have any meaning at this particular point. Other than, you're projecting yourself on, somebody else.
Yeah, it's fascinating. 1930s Germany, hello. First thing they did was they demonized their opposition. They prevented them from speaking. And then ultimately, we know the rest. I mean, because the transition of power in the 1930s was quite peaceful.
Hmm?
And it was brought in with thunderous applause. People seem to forget that. It was what happened in the later years that
Reichstag fire.
That they're interesting, huh? Could you say Minneapolis? Oh, yeah. There we go. We were talking about the riot in the Capitol.
Yes.
Remember I said it takes just a couple to get the stampede going, so to speak. The same thing happens with cows or cattle or whatever stampedes. Yeah. And then you look at what happened. There's a couple of guys, and they were white guys on video.
Sure.
At the protest with George Floyd protests, and they were initially protests. And you know what? I supported those protests. And then you had some people running around with batons and stuff like that, starting to break windows. Boom, boom. Everybody else started to break windows, and that's when it turned to shit. You always have somebody instigating, and I bet you it was the same people there that were at the Capitol instigating it over there.
Oh, and no doubt, because it's their playbook. There was one particular scene in particular that I remember, and it was, I think it was Minneapolis, but I remember there was this building. It looked like it was like a Quick Mart or something like that, but it was boarded up and stuff, and they had these like Cream City type bricks and stuff, and there was these black clad Antifa looking, because they always wear the same types of uniforms, and they were spraying BLM, and you couldn't see anything but their eyes. And that one young black woman, where was it at?
It was a Starbucks.
Yes. And there was a young black lady that says, no, don't do that, because they're going to blame us. They're going to blame us. These folks wanted to actually protest. Now, I don't agree with them, but you know what? You want to protest, by all means, peaceful protest, you can disrupt civilly, civil disobedience. Cool. Not highly looked upon, but you know what? It is your constitutional right. But exactly. She was absolutely right. These folks went out there, started all this, and what happened? The opportunists came out because, you know what? I can get me some Jack Daniels. The opportunists came out so they can get themselves, because I remember this one dude, he had like 2 bottles of Jack Daniels, and I was like, damn, I don't know if I would have done that, but okay. Other folks were running out with big screen TVs out of Target and Walmart and everything else like that. They would have committed a crime no matter what incident happened. And that's when the Marxists came out to take control of everything, to be the spokespersons. Why didn't anyone bring up insurrection or anything during the summertime when you had all these BLM folks running around, all these Antifa folks running around talking about, you know what, we need to tear down the system. We need to dismantle capitalism, destroy Washington. Nobody said anything about that. Kamala Harris was able to go ahead and start crowdfunding to bail people out. You had Nancy Pelosi going out there saying people are going to do what they're going to do. You had all these other people. What was it? Respect the diversity of protest. But last Wednesday was the worst day in American history.
Oh, keep talking. You just reminded me of something. I got to pull this up. Sorry, guys. I'm not paying attention to the comments right now.
You know, it's bad when Paris asked me to keep talking. Because normally I'm talking too much.
Okay, here, let me go to the save image.
And as you're pulling that up, I want to mention this too. You got the CEO of Mozilla, who has the browser Firefox, going out along with several other people talking about, you know what, we need to start looking at where do all these conservatives and Proud Boys and these people at this, Trump rally, where are they getting their funding from? All this disclosure, right? Patty in the comments here said, let's not forget how those crates of bricks show up in some towns. Who put them there? So they want to track down where all the money comes for the shirts, the outfits, whatever, when it comes to Trump supporters, right? And I said this over the summer many times. Nobody didn't want to listen. Follow the money. Somebody's printing out those signs. Somebody put those crates out there. Somebody put those bricks out there. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I know a number of people within construction, automotive, and several other fields. And I will tell you, nothing gets through these people unless there's an invoice. And I guarantee you, at the levels that they had these things out, that was invoiced.
We're talking pallets and pallets of bricks. So get this. This was, I got to read this. June of 2020. I won't say who yet. Okay. Ready?
Mhm.
And I quote, too many see the protests as the problem. No problem is what forced. Let's try that again. I can't talk right. Once again, I quote, too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets. Persistent and poisonous inequalities and injustice. Please show me where it says protesters are supposed to be polite and peaceful. I can show you outraged citizens are what made America what she is and led to many major milestones.
Fredo.
Yep, Chris Cuomo of CNN said that in June of 2020.
Weak brother.
I've got to read it again. Too many see the protest as a problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets. I mean, this is crazy. This is exactly, he is such a, that the left is so hypocritical with all this. It's absolutely mind-boggling that they're not they don't care that they have. I mean, this is his quote. They don't care. They're hypocrites and they're proud of it. Yep. And that's what it just. Yeah, I get a little worked up over something like that because it's just absolutely. And let's have another one. This is going to be fun. You're going to know who it is once you see the picture. We'll put the picture up here. If they bring a knife to the fight, we bring a gun. I want you to argue with them and get in their face. I don't want to quell anger. I think people are right to be angry. I'm angry. We're going to punish our enemies. Yes. Was Barack Obama impeached for inciting violence?
Oh, you remember, if he had a son, it would look like Trayvon.
Yeah. I didn't agree with any of that shit. I still agree with his right to say it. And I would stand with him shoulder to shoulder to protect that right.
It's interesting. What interests me about the first quote there from Obama is that it clearly shows that he has no knowledge, proficiency, or education when it comes to guns and knives. Mm-hmm. I think I made this comment with you. Yeah. I mean, if we're within like 10 feet of each other and one has a gun, one has a knife, who's going to come out on top? The person with the knife, almost always. You talk to anybody in law enforcement, military, that's not the fight that you want to be in. And especially if you've never drawn a weapon on another human being. Yeah, that person with the knife's going to win almost every single time. And even if they don't win, you're not coming out unscathed. So it's like, why would you say something that ignorant? Well, of course, he wants to get people riled up. And unfortunately, he gets the low information people riled up the most.
Oh, yes, Orlando, we will have to bring you on. I'm almost going to be done here tonight. You have to get to me earlier. We'll get you on. Yeah, so he wants to be on with both of us. So we're gonna have the Paris, Orlando, and Ed. Oh yeah, we're gonna do it. It'll have to be on a night we can stay up late. Okay.
Kidding.
Just got a couple more things here, and then I'm gonna cut you loose here. But
yes,
we got, and we really can't forget. This is one of my favorite speakers of all time. And the impact that this statement has on me.
Please tell me it's who I think it is.
Oh, it is.
God, yeah. It is. It is. It's motivating. It's motivating.
Let that kick you in the ass and get you moving. No, sorry.
It does.
I couldn't resist. I just had to, maybe we are. Here's another one. If Twitter can do what they want, since they're a private company, then every single business in America should be open right now. Okay. It's kind of funny how the left could be so hypocritical. Twitter can do what they want. So can their business, right?
Well, and this is one of those things that really, and I've talked about it ad nauseum, and I'm going to continue to do it because I just feel like I can't preach enough about it. I am sick and tired of seeing small businesses being abused. Meanwhile, the Walmarts, the Festival Foods, the Amazons of the world are allowed to go ahead and do what they got to do. Now, I'm not blaming these companies in particular. I mean, I'm sure they got their lobbyists, their influencers, and everything else like that. But, you know, they're doing what they got to do to survive and prosper. I get that.
Absolutely.
But you know what? The mom and dad spots of the world, they need, you know, these bars, these restaurants, these small businesses. This is over 50% of the job market. You know, if we're not doing things to support and keep these people afloat, even in the midst of a pandemic, I'm sorry. We don't have people with wheelbarrows walking down the roads talking about bring out your dead. If that were the case, I'd have a totally different stance on this, but it's not.
I got to bring my fans out. Sorry. So there we go.
Good fans.
Yeah.
Hey, got a question for you. Did you get a chance to see Dan O'Donnell's column from a couple days ago?
Regarding
where the Republican Party goes from here, you know, post-Trump.
Oh, no, I have not. I'll have to look it up. I'm actually writing one myself. So I'll have it up in the Conservative Digest by this weekend, I hope.
It is a magnificent piece. I definitely encourage you to read that because I really like where he's going with it. And I'll tell you, even I've had to struggle with, you know, just the idea of just being, I'm pissed. I'm upset, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But
well, they want us to stop fighting. Get so frustrated that we just go away. Screw it. We're not voting anymore. We're not participating. You know what? You're giving up on the United States then. Do not give up on the United States because, you know, if we lose freedom here, there's nowhere else to go. To quote Ronald Reagan. Well, to paraphrase Ronald Reagan.
Yep. Well, and that was the thing, you know, it's like I kind of missed the days where I would podcast on cultural issues, anime and memes. I miss those days.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. I miss just like having somebody on the phone and just jaw jacking and laughing. And it's like everything is like so dark and surreal now that it's like you almost want to just close up shop and say the hell with it.
Screw that. No, we need to do that. I'd say once a week. We'll have to figure out a time that'll work for us. We'll have a live show and obviously record it and stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
Our homework for the week will be to watch a movie, and then we'll do movie reviews. What the hell? And talk about a
nerd fest here, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? And we can bring it in. We can bring in the pop culture. We can bring politics into it. We can bring, overall message, and that kind of thing. I think it'd be a lot of fun to do because you know what? I think people need an outlet right now just to, the political system is broken.
Yep.
We need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and then we got to dig in. Yep. And we got to start pushing forward. Why? Because the time has come.
We might have to go on strike.
Yep. No, but this is it's not. I'm talking about we gotta take the message to the masses. Mm-hmm. President Trump is not a person. President Trump is a movement. And the movement is about being number one in the world. It's about being every individual has the ability to achieve and should be rewarded for that achievement. Mm-hmm. That type of thing. And he was all about lifting everybody, lift what he did. The ideas that he personified. Not the lies that mm-hmm. the left tried to paint on him. You think what?
Well, it's interesting because one of the things with Trump was that when you look over the last 4 years, if you struck at him, if you betrayed him, he went after you. He was kind of like that Rottweiler, that Rottweiler that just doesn't give AF. He would just come after you because you turned on him. The dog didn't turn on you. You turned on him. That's why he bit you in the ass. But the problem, I think, with Trump was that he didn't pick and choose his battles wisely. And, mm-hmm. If you can criticize him on anything, that would probably be the biggest thing there. and I get
Well,
it.
he's not a professional politician.
No.
But on the flip side, he also said this should be easy to do. Get it done. And he got he's accomplished more in one term. So, guys, term one was not a failure.
Right.
May have ended on a sour note because those idiots who stormed the Capitol, but I should use
But
the
I
word
don't
idiot,
think.
but still.
No, I don't. You know what? But you know what though? I don't think. Okay, let's assume that they invoke the 25th Amendment. Let's assume that perhaps maybe they impeach him. Like they speed everything through and he's impeached before he leaves office. Let's assume he actually just rides off into the night. No impeachment. Doesn't matter how they do it. What has happened up to this point, and I know you mentioned that this could tarnish his legacy. I don't think it will, just simply because people have short attention spans.
Not after this week. Nope.
Donald Trump, after the 20th, becomes a kingmaker. He doesn't need to run for office again. To use Hilario's Star Wars analogy, if you strike me down, Vader, I will become stronger than ever.
They have no idea what they've unleashed.
And don't let anything happen to him. They really need to pray to God that nothing happens to Trump, because if they actually make him a martyr instead of still alive, it'll be even worse for them.
Yeah, well, Trump should be fine. He has plenty of security around him and stuff like that. I don't even want to speculate on that. All right. So yeah,
no, I get you, but they are trying to strip him of that though.
I'm telling you, that's the next thing that's another reason they want to get him impeached, because he loses all that. That's the reason why Nixon resigned, because he was in danger of losing everything regarding that. But then the big question is, will he pardon himself? Although they could still go after him statewide, and he can pardon himself. There was an interview with Nancy Pelosi, which, by the way, she admitted to be the reason that the aid package to the people was held up for 8 months, was because of her. So exactly. She admitted that. But once again, she even said that it still won't protect him from states. So she didn't say, no, he can't pardon himself. Apparently he can. So, but or does he quit, and will Mike Pence pardon him? Maybe Mike Pence could redeem himself by pardoning him. But I personally never felt that Mike Pence is the future of the party.
I think he's been solid though. That's what I don't get.
Oh, he's solid. He's solid, but I guess my personal issue, I think he's too evangelical for my tastes. Sure. I don't think he could win I don't think he can win a nationwide election.
And I can certainly agree with you on that. But I think the issue I have is, what was it? About a month and a half, you had a bunch of people just blow out right out of nowhere that Pence is this deep state operative. He's this traitor and everything else. And yes, Pence is certainly familiar with the deep state, but I'm sorry, 3.5 years, 4 years, and
he could have quit at any time.
Right. You couldn't have I don't know, maybe let us know come I don't know, January 2020 or 2016. Oh, you just got to wait till the end of the first term to kind of drop that bomb.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah. The only politician that's appealing to me right now is Kristi Noem. I'm not, Ted Cruz, maybe he maybe a Noem Cruz ticket, or a Noem. I would love a Alan West to jump in the race or something like that. We need someone with some ass kicking ability. But
I would keep an eye on these new congressional delegates that just got sworn into office. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be a lot more refined.
I hope so. I want to see fighters. I want to see people that are there to, and you know what? And I want to see people working with the other side. Hey, let's get something done. Trump was begging. How long have they been talking about new freeways and stuff like that? The Democrats, he's been begging for infrastructure. Give me something on infrastructure. No, we don't want to give you a win. The Democrats could have had one of their issues taken care of. And I wrote a paper on it in my 9th grade year on the crumbling electrical infrastructure. This was back in 1985. And we're still talking about the power grid to this day.
Yeah.
We haven't
Well,
done
and it's interesting because, I don't think people realize that the power grid is fragmented into I think it's like 3 or 4 sectors, and it's very susceptible to a number of different attacks. And I don't want to get into that, but
no.
What I think one of the biggest things I would love to see, and I love obstruction in government, because if they're not passing laws, that means people like you and I can actually start working and making money. But what I would like to see is actual conversation. Let's get people from the right and the left, not the radical sides. I mean, let's just get people that are like, you know what? Let's break down ideas. Let's see what we have in common. The problem is that the radical left, boy, they are just, you can't have a conversation without being called some pejorative.
No, but they aren't. The radical left they're the loudest, so they get the attention, but they don't represent the majority, and that's the whole thing. We've got to overcome that, and I think we will. I mean, we got to get through the noise, and whatever. I think we need to start searching out some leaders, and we got to do it quickly. I don't want to have 20 people running for president. I want to have one or two really good ones, and let's see about that, because what? It just, here, let me get. Okay, I'm gonna bring Orlando on. Orlando, you know what? We're having a great discussion here. I'm going to keep it going if you guys don't mind. Orlando, I'm going to bring you on. We're done at the 2-hour mark. We're done at the 2-hour mark.
Give Mario his 2 hours
there. Yeah, you'll be in here. Okay, Orlando, I'm going to give you, let's go message. And oops, I got to get I'll send you a link to your private message on Facebook. And I've got to get the link. Invite and copy the clipboard. And we're going to do this. So we're going to go only to the 2-hour mark. Boom. There we go, Orlando. I sent it to you. Check your messages and come on quickly. And we've got about 27 minutes. You know what? It's just funny because we just keep going and going and going. But I've got a busy day tomorrow, so I gotta get moving.
You both, brother. What was it? Patty mentioned something on here. Patty Concha. She said, "What did you touch on? What Andrew Haidt said today?" I may have missed that. I missed it. Then that's.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, Patty. Can you clarify a little bit? Andrew Haidt said today some wording a Republican group somewhere here in Wisconsin had some are out that was questionable. I don't understand what that means. So,
I'd love to get clarification on that, because that would be, yeah.
So, hopefully she clarifies that. Yeah, I did not hear anything to that. I wonder what the group is that he said, but and the fact that we lost the presidential race and we still have the same leaders in the state, and this isn't the first race that's been lost in the past couple of years. I think losing Dan Kelly, now we're finding out, was a huge loss. Well, Dan Kelly was a big loss anyway, because he was a phenomenal Supreme Court justice. Yep. Phenomenal. And not because he voted the way I wanted him to. There were actually a couple rulings that I didn't agree with, but I respected the heck out of him. And I still respect the heck out of him. And I actually kind of hope he runs again with some better campaign people. So, and this is the guy that's going to make me lose some sleep. All right. Welcome to the show, Orlando Owens. How you doing?
Hey, brothers. How you all doing this evening?
What's going on, my friend? How are you?
Man, just ready to enjoy the conversation, and just really want to look at some of the topics you guys discussed and went over tonight.
Yep. Well, I gotta,
crazy.
This has a punchline. So a Greek, a Puerto Rican, and a black guy walk into a bar.
Trouble.
I'm sorry. I can resist. Yeah.
Trouble.
And That's because we rock that way. That's how we roll. So what you were chopping at the bit to come on. So talk to him.
I am, I'm ready for the next evolution of conversation on what do we grow and how do we go. I've been, a caller on both of you guys' shows and been active in both of you guys, chat rooms, and I'm just really just convinced that we have to grow the party. And I think the growth side is not necessarily more white conservatives, quite honestly. I think it's the African American community and also the Latino community. But I think what's going to happen, quite honestly, I think that if there's not a strong Black agenda, and I know some conservatives may not like that, I think there are differences, but I think it's okay to have, discussions about different groups. But I believe what's going to happen with this Biden campaign is that they're going to push for immigration, and the uniqueness of the Black voice and the Black vote will not be as important. And they will give a window in which the Black vote will be up for grabs. The question is, what is the party willing to do to get that young African-American, very pro-African-American, not anti-nobody, but very pro-liberation, pro-business, self-reliance? How do we go about talking to them? Because so often and I hear conservatives talk about it all the time, like we have principles and we have values, but understand, if the young African-American is the customer, and I want to use a business analogy, if they're the customer, they're not buying what we selling. They have something that we want. They have the vote. So we need to, in order to get their vote, we need to listen to what they want to talk about. And you guys both know that I've been active with the whole idea of felons who are nonviolent felons getting, at least gun rights back. I think that's a ballot initiative that will draw and pull people out to the polls. I know
they can earn them back.
Yeah, they can earn it back. I think at least nonviolent, and I think you have to look at issues that speak to young African Americans. And it's, we know that Walker lost, but he didn't really lose to Tony Evers. We know that the weed question brought out people.
He lost the weed. Yeah,
he lost the weed, exactly.
Well, that was weed, but he also did a lot to get his base unmotivated. He did nothing to help himself.
That's true. And I just think that the upside, and somebody who just ran, I'm recently still licking my wounds, and I saw some steps that I did wrong. I spent way too much time talking to Republicans, knocking on doors of Republicans, of people that I've already had. I didn't need to talk to Republicans because it wasn't enough Republicans in my district to win anyway. I needed to be talking to hardcore Democrats or moderate Democrats, the whole gamut, because what I found when I did doors is that it's not so many hard Democrats at all. But what we have to do is really get this young, more impressionable 45 and under young vote. We got to kind of give up on the African American church going person. Nothing against them; they're going to be polite to us, but they're not going to vote for a Republican, just not. But these young, impressionable young people who are not totally indoctrinated, or they're totally ticked off, or not impressed by neither party, are the ones we should be trying to, speak to and listen to.
And I ask him. So, in other words, a kind of a continuation of the foundation that Trump has laid out. He started doing it.
I think there's definitely, I know we talk about a lot of the Trump vote in African American community. It grew, but let me just also be clear, and this is my honest opinion. I don't know if they actually went out and voted for Trump. More so, they voted against Joe Biden, because what did happen successfully, and you may not see this across a lot of the data collected, but I believe the invention of YouTube and Facebook and seeing Joe Biden struggle to explain the 94 crime bill, a lot of young African-American activists said, what? I don't like neither one of these guys, and I'm not going to go vote for neither one.
But what's the one thing that Donald Trump did differently from any other Republican and, quite frankly, any other Democrat in recent history?
When I talk to, I think he listened, but when I talk to a lot of conservatives, they can't really tell me. And I think I started with you, Paris, that like, what was it so conservative that Trump did? Was it that he spent, his spending? He wasn't a fiscal hawk as far as a conservative.
Nope.
He wasn't a moral conservative, Christian conservative. Now he did do some things with the wars. We didn't start any new conflicts. He did do the tax breaks. What Trump did, quite honestly, he spoke in the language that a lot of Republicans just don't like to talk. I mean, he talks like you and Ed do.
Bingo.
If you get slick with me, Ed or Paris might get slick right back with you. And so people say, you know what? I like that.
he talked, and that's the whole thing. And I look back to the executive order that he issued about police reform.
Yep, the First Step Act.
Yeah. The First Step Act, but he did one after George Floyd and all that stuff, where he actually invited families who lost family members to a police shooting. He invited them in. He didn't qualify them saying, well, was it justified? Was it not? He just wanted to hear them out. You know, that spoke volumes. Or, you had like Lil Wayne and Kanye West and all these people that were trying to get him to listen, and he's pardoning people that the woman she's now a preacher, but she ended up in prison for all those years. And
we just have to listen to people. And if you talk to young African Americans, they will tell you what they want. And I think we still focus on a top-down approach. Don't tell people what you're about. Let's listen to what they want to talk about. Now, the question is, are we willing to embrace those issues? You have to understand what moved African Americans away from the Republican Party in the 60s anyway under King. It wasn't so much that the Republican Party had changed its values. It was just there were some particular issues that the African American community wanted, be it civil rights legislation, voting rights acts, open housing, open housing, and the Democratic Party responded. The Republican Party kind of didn't do it. And I know a lot of people have this history of when did the party switch? There was never a party switch. What happened was the Democratic Party just responded, and both of the big major moves for African Americans to lead the Republican Party both revolved around Martin Luther King Jr. One was when Barry Goldwater ran, and Barry Goldwater had a technicality issue with the constitutional issues of civil rights legislation. And that made a space and a wedge between the African American community and the Republican Party. The next thing was when King himself was arrested in the South. And at that time, Nixon and Kennedy were running. And Nixon did not take the time to intervene for a peaceful protest. Yep. Kennedy did. And Kennedy got him out. And Daddy King said, if anybody would help my son, I know we were going to vote for Nixon, but anybody who help my son will get our vote. And that did it.
The little things matter. Go ahead.
But I think it also goes back. But I think it goes back further than just the 60s. You have to go to the Great Depression, because when people were out of work, and in particular, Black families were out of work, all these big projects and everything else that were done, it was FDR that ended up, giving, and unfortunately, Black, Hispanic, and Asians, they got the worst of the worst jobs, but they got jobs, which of course is like, hey man, this dude hooked me up with a job, so yeah, I'm going to vote for him. And that's where you started seeing this seismic shift in the voting demographic from Republican to Democrat within the Black population. And I think the 60s ended up solidifying it. But it's interesting because Orlando and I, we've had these private conversations, and we talked about this, and there's some disagreement, but I certainly understand where he's coming from, because I think, and I've seen some pushback even in the chat room over here. I think you do, the Republican Party conservatives do have to talk to people in their language. And not to say that Black people don't understand white people. We do. What was the thing we said the other day? I'd say big brother, and somebody, down the road might, on the north side of Milwaukee, they say
the man is in my business.
We're saying the same thing, We're just not saying it in the same language. You know what I mean? So you have to look at, okay, what's the Black community looking for? What's the Hispanic community? But when I say the Black community, Hispanic community, you got to realize that it's not just Milwaukee, Madison. Yeah, you got to cater to that group a little bit more because that's where the largest population bases are. But then you got the disaffected liberals. You got the, and when I say disaffected, they either come to the conservative side, hence walk away, or they become, and this is the one that really upsets me to no end, the white liberal that has to say, I'm here to speak for you. And it's like, no, sit down,
the virtue
shut
signaler.
The virtue signaler.
I'm going to let
down,
you guys
and go feel better about yourself before you come talk to me.
I'm going to let you guys kind of deal with that, quite honestly. And I have no problem because this is a team effort. And I have no problem acknowledging the fact that I don't know how we get back, the Jim Ott district. I don't know how to talk to white liberals. I don't. I leave it to Paris. You got to figure out a way to get those young, impressionable white liberals who how do you get them back? I don't know. I know African Americans. That's what I live. That's what my experience, and that's what I'm good at. And I think we have to embrace, like, we all have different lanes we flow in, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, true to an extent, but we got to get away from this. Oh, I'm disqualified for talking about it because I'm white. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, I couldn't tell you what a white progressive or a white liberal wants, Paris, and maybe you can't either. But I got a feeling. I can't tell you. I got a feeling you probably know better than I do.
Oh, I can't. No. What they're, the virtue signaling. Hey, I want to help you because I'm going to help you by destroying them. It isn't helping. It isn't helping. But I have a question. This is always, David King. We all know David King. He's a good friend of mine. He's my brother from another mother, so to speak. And he is, and one thing he says has always resonated with me, kind of a campaign thing, that he would talk to somebody when he was running as a Republican. Why should I vote for you? You're a Republican. Yes. It's like, and he met the guy in church or something like that. And in church, he's like, okay, why do you go to church every Sunday, but then you vote against your beliefs on Tuesday? And that's,
I think we have to, even with that conversation, I'm a minister too. And so it's definitely a conversation that, will we as African-American believers vote against our own interests? Quite honestly, we have to understand that certain issues are just more every day. We can't continue to talk about the idea of, the creation of life and the definition of marriage. That only appeals to the older African-American churchgoer. What about the dude who's just off the block? He ain't in nobody's church.
Speaking of, that's exactly speaking someone's language. See, that's why a lot of churches have failed, because they stopped speaking.
Hey, brother, if your church doesn't have young people, that's a dying church.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You better be going beyond the four walls and servicing the community around you, or your church is going to die because people get old and they move away and they pass away.
Well, I'm going to give you my analogy that I like to use. I always talk about in this. I got to think of a new analogy because I'm really pissed at Apple right now. But the iPhone is the most brilliantly marketed product on the planet. Everybody knows what it is. Whether you have iPhone, Android, or a flip phone, everybody knows what the iPhone is. Never once did Steve Jobs tell you what the iPhone can do. It was always what you can do with the iPhone. We need to make that case of what they can do with Republicans in office or conservatives in office. We're not making that case. We're just telling you, well, I got this experience. I got that experience. Who gives a crap? What school you went to, what are you going to do? Because the problem is, especially in the inner city and stuff like that, you see that everybody else campaign. Oh, we got high crime. We got to fix crime. We got to fix, there's no jobs. We got to fix jobs. And then what happens 4 years later? We got crime. We got high crime. They never fix the issue. They want to keep the issue so they can campaign on it, but never actually want to fix it. And that's both sides.
I think we're in a different place. I know, I'm not a supporter of the Black Lives Matter, the organization, but I do support police reforms. And what I've seen in some of these young leaders is that I think there's a heightened awareness of holding everybody accountable. I've got a quote that I've been posting on Facebook like crazy, and white conservatives are going crazy, and black liberals are going crazy. It's a quote from Malcolm X, and it just really talks about how neither one of these parties have been all that well for black people, and we need to watch one as a wolf and one as a fox, right? And so many people get angry, and I said, well, listen. First of all, it's not my words; it's Malcolm X. But the point is still there. We as a people should never put all our faith in a party, because the party is only an apparatus, and that's all it is. That's all it is. Yep. If these parties are not speaking to the issues that are important to you, and that's why I have no problem when some say, well, that sounds like identity politics. Well, understand, either you want to identify with black voters or you don't. So identify that. So figure it out. So you have to understand what's going on. So you call it identity politics or just good customer service. You don't tell any business, you don't tell the customer what they want. You listen to the customer and they tell you what they're looking for. And your job as the business owner or the provider of service is try to meet that need. That's how you win their dollar. Not saying, hey, we only got this, so deal with it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing, to use Paris's analogy with Apple, the genius of Steve Jobs was that he told you what you wanted before you even knew what you wanted. And it's interesting because, I'm always cautious about people that, this is what you need. That snake oil, salesman. You're cautious about it, but every now and again, there's that cat that comes out here and he tells you something. And it's like, man, I didn't realize I need that. And it wasn't like, that, $600 PlayStation 5 or anything else like that. It was like, no, man, this is kind of where I think we need to reach out, black, white, whatever. It's like, there is a better way, to quote Paul Ryan. By the way, on behalf of the people of the state of Wisconsin, we apologize for Paul Ryan. But there is a better way.
Man, that's my man.
Yes, I went there. Paul, you can find me. It's okay.
Do you have any idea where he swiped the better way from?
I don't know.
Nancy
Pelosi.
Okay. I think we just have to be more. There's definitely a assessment of the party, man. I'm just one. I'm supportive of a black agenda. Does not mean that I don't support, any other agenda, because all of us, all those rainbows, all of those stripes, we unified, we are a great place. But at the same time, we just have to identify that there are some things that we need to address, because what always drives me crazy, and I'll be honest with you, is that when we do see the murder rate that we have, and we just saw another 16, 13-year-old girl get killed in Milwaukee, that conservatives will quickly say, what are the black leaders doing? What are you doing? What are they going to do? But as soon as we start talking about black issues, then all of a sudden we get the other construct was, wait a minute, that sounds so separatist. It sounds so, you can't have it both ways. Now, hold on. You can't say there's a problem in the black community and black people need to try to address it because white folk can only do so much. But then when we start talking about those black issues, then Republicans run back and say, wait, that sounds like we're not unified. We only want America. I'm like, it's cool, y'all. Stop being overly dramatic. It's cool. Just like the rural dude. Ain't nothing wrong with talking about real issues.
Here's where I part with some of the issues that the Republicans do. One of the big issues that, and remember, people seem to forget that the crime bill in 95 or whenever that was?
94.
Yeah, 94. That was bipartisan support, and it was substantial. So Bill Clinton signed it into law, and it was Joe Biden's baby, but let's be real here. But I go back to that, and I go back. It's like it was like 3 strikes and you're in, and it didn't make sense because you got to judge each case on its own merits, in my opinion. But I had the other one was stop and frisk. And it's like, and we have these Republicans supporting it and white Republicans or whatever, and they're supporting this. It's like, guys, do you have any idea what this means? You're pissing away the Fourth Amendment. You're basically saying, you're guilty. And
understand, if you're looking at trying to grow the party again, where do you find the most way to get new voters? Not the old chosen frozen. They won't ever look our way, but it's going to be the young people.
But that's what I'm afraid we're going back to that. We're going back to that because we got wash our hands of Donald Trump. That's a bad scar in the history. It's like moronic. Like him or not, he was a Queens, New York loudmouth, but he did things differently, and it resonated. Was he perfect? Hell no, but we got to grow that. We can grow that, and he set a foundation, and and I think we can capitalize on it. And I don't mean capitalize on. It'd be nice to get more black support and stuff like that in the Republican Party, because in reality, when you talk about black issues, Puerto Rican issues, or Greek issues, whatever, when you talk about those issues, when you peel away the layers, it's all the same issues. We all have the same issues.
It's all the same, and it makes the melting pot. There's nothing wrong with the stew and the gumbo. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Stop running away from like we can't talk about the ingredients that makes the stew. Yes, you can. It's the melting pot. Yes, you can. Let's talk about it. Don't shy away from it. Embrace it. Let's understand it, and let's come up as a strategy collectively on like Orlando. This is what are you saying we need to do? Let's just do this thing, man. Let's stop being so. Well, we're not playing identity politics. What you're playing is identify voter issues. That's what you should be playing.
Yep, yeah, and not a single. Or I was going to say, not a single Republican supported crime reform until Donald Trump.
You're right. And I will say that again, I hold these things for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris very, very true. I'm going to hold him to his word. I'm going to hold him. I want to see criminal justice reform. I want to see, some people will talk about reparations. So Democrats, hey, they have all the power right now in D.C. I do not want to hear anything on why they can't fully embrace the Black agenda. Because if you don't do it, we're going to hold you accountable. You have the Senate, you have the House, and you have the presidency. So don't tell me why you can't address issues in the Black community. Because once again, if you don't, all of those voters like Roland Martin, all of those Black liberals who supported Joe Biden, I call him the oppressor, the creator of the 94 crime bill, and Kamala Harris was the executor of the 94 crime bill. They locked up more Black Americans. The 13th Amendment. You destroyed Black communities with this crime bill, and the Black church was culpable. The Black caucus was culpable. I don't care. They all were culpable. Nobody gets a pass. And so for every Republican that supported it, you don't get a pass for that. For me, in my humble opinion, but at the same time, hold Joe Biden and Kamala Harris accountable. If they don't do it, Black community, don't give them your vote, because they said they wanted our vote. You gave my vote, because what's going to happen, in my humble opinion, they're going to wait until the end right before the midterm and tell us, well, we just need your vote one more time and we're going to get to those Black agenda items you talked about. I'm like, no, because we don't know. No. You need to do this now. This is to be part of your first 2 years. Don't wait till the back end of the first 2 years, because Republicans will pick up in the House seats in 2 years in the midterm.
And we know that in historically speaking too, they had the full Monty in 2008. They even had Barack Obama as freaking president. And
what did they do? The first thing that Barack Obama did was healthcare and gay rights. And the Black community was left in the cold again. Like, wait a minute, where happened to all the Black issues that we talked about in our community? And I see it's 1 hour and 59 minutes, Brother Paris.
Yeah, I know. I wrote an article well back, because the trans community was saying, oh yeah, the trans movement is the Selma of our times, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, what did they try to do? What was that one bar in New York that they tried to say that was like
crazy?
And it's like, no.
It's not. It's not even close to the same. Because okay, I'm like you. You do you. If you're a guy and you want to throw on a dress, go ahead. Go do what you need to do. But if you really needed to hide who you were, you can go dress like a guy again. Nobody can change the color of their skin. It is not the same as what the Black community went through and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. But I don't know. It just, And yeah, we can't be afraid.
Let's embrace our differences, and that's fine. And we're smarter than this. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, Republican Party. And for all those ones that say we're Americans, that's fine, you all. We all make America. And it hadn't been all the same experience for everybody. Let's embrace that. Let's stop making things so difficult to figure out a pathway forward and a strategy. It's not that hard. I think, Paris, you said it earlier already. You tapped your ear. Let's listen to the people, and the people will tell you exactly what they need and what they want.
Well, and that's what we got to do. We got to stop saying, if I see a BLM protester, I'm not going to say, "Oh, get the fuck out of my," get the heck out of my face. Sorry, guys. But I'll have a conversation. I'll talk to anybody. And that's the whole thing. We got to stop saying, just because you're on the other side, I got to hate you.
Well, listen, again, where do we grow as a party? Yeah. Through white voters? Just honestly, where do we've maxed out almost all the white conservatives. We maxed them out. Where do we go to pick up new voters, you all? This is the real truth. Where's the growth market at? Yeah.
Well, here's the surprise. Donald Trump is not a conservative. He never was. He never was. That's the whole point. He was more moderate than most presidents in history. And I think history is going to judge him very well with the things he was able to accomplish in just one term. And I'm not saying nothing's perfect. And the spending, he had full Republican control. We still have all this spending. So don't tell me that the Republicans are the party of fiscal responsibility. Paul Ryan didn't give him a single spending cut bill. So let's be real. Sorry, I know he's your guy, but sorry.
No, well, let me chime in on this here. Let me chime in on something here real quick, because I keep seeing this posted over and over, new party, and even I talked about this before. I would love to see the death of the Republican Party, but going back to something I said earlier, I recommend reading. You guys check out Dan O'Donnell's article. No, we don't need the death of the Republican Party. See, the Democrats, the radical, the progressives, or the AOC wing, they got it right. They hijacked the Democrat Party. We don't necessarily, I guess, need to hijack it. If you want to use that word, fine. But we need to take over the Republican Party. And why?
We have taken over.
There's only one reason to do it, though. They have the infrastructure. They have the systems in place. And if you get the right people in there, this is what we need to do. Because if we just start something else separate, now we got multiple parties, which not necessarily the worst thing in the world. But you know what?
Guarantees the Democrats will win because they're staying together.
Exactly. They circle the wagons. They are damn good at it too.
Yep. Well, let's be real. Okay. To you libertarians out there watching, when you start bitching and complaining because not a single thing that's even close to libertarian is going to get done in the next 4 years, or for sure 2 years, just remember, libertarians were the difference in each one of those states.
True.
Had Trump had the libertarian vote, he would have won another term based on the official tallied results, not what might have actually happened. Who knows? At this point, it's done. He, didn't prove his case or whatever. But gentlemen, I gotta go.
I know I gotta pretend to work tomorrow, man.
We gotta do this again. I gotta do this again.
This is fun. We gotta get you on earlier. Well, I started at 10 o'clock tonight, so I started late. So because I wanted me and my son watched a movie tonight, so I got my priorities.
What's happening here, and I'll end with this. This is the think tank that has to be. This is the coalition that the Republican Party has to be reflective of. These are the new ideas. This is a new frontier. We have to usher in new voters, and I think us three, and there's probably a few more people that can come to the table. Like we all have an audience that we speak to, and there's nothing wrong with speaking to audience that listen. The Bible was very clear with the disciples. The 12 all spoke to a different population of people. Because that's not wrong with that.
Nope, we have a different thing. We each have our niche. I tend to I like to speak to the ladies, but anyway, it's like oh wait, what are we talking about here? No, but hey, I'm single. I'm allowed. Hey, we got to have some levity here, my friends. We're everybody's talking doom and gloom, and they're they might be right on some things. But I have a feeling that things will level out. I'll leave it at that. People thought the end of the world when it was Barack Obama 60 Democrat seats in the Senate, and he had the House of Representatives all at one time. He got Obamacare in barely,
Right.
and he had to make a bunch of deals to get it done. But in the end, we were able to curtail that. He didn't go, and he was such a disappointment because he could have been this watershed type of president. Could have been a good president. And then the thing that bothers me, because he doesn't have much of a legacy because of the fact that like Obamacare was his big thing, and now that's even been crippled by some Trump legislation. But the fact that he's going to go throughout history simply being known as the first black president. He didn't accomplish great things.
And maybe that's enough for him.
No, but simply he's always going to be remembered in history, but he's going to be remembered for the color of his skin and nothing more. And that's what's sad.
We liked him, but we want it with so much more we want it. And I think we've learned from that experience as a black community. It's cool that we had the first black president, and for that history's sake of it, we're gonna always rock with him on that level. But we all also
it's a big deal, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. But we also know legislatively we didn't get much out the deal as African Americans. And that's why this Kamala Harris, this Joe Biden, they're gonna catch all the brunt and all the grief that Obama should have got, and we gave him a pass.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some interesting times, but we can't give up. That's all these people that want to break everything up. Let's go to civil war. It's like, do you really want to give up on America, or do you want the city of Milwaukee to end up like Lebanon, like Beirut, Lebanon? It's like, are you?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier tonight. That's what I was saying earlier tonight. People that are talking about civil war and everything else, and I talk about it at length, but I talk about it in terms of, this isn't what you want. It's here. You need to understand, though, the type of civil war that we're dealing with right now is fifth generational warfare. If you do not understand this, you need to look it up, do some research, and then get yourself on that digital battlefield. It is important. And not only do you need to get yourself involved in it, but you need to start creating culture. Because, Breitbart said it best, Andrew Breitbart, politics is downstream of culture. Why has the left been so successful? Because they own culture. What do we have on the right? I'm sorry, most of the folks on the right, we don't have anything that's like cool, hip, or whatever. And I understand, it's our ideas. We running on ideas. Yes, you should do that, but it really helps if you're cool as hell when you're doing it too. Mm-hmm. I hate to be like that, but
and I guess that was the appeal of Trump. He was a celebrity. Trump was a celebrity. I mean, look at Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was a celebrity. He's there. He is playing the saxophone on the Tonight Show or whatever. With the sunglasses. Remember that?
Yep. And tell me Obama wasn't smooth. Tell me Obama wasn't smooth.
Oh yeah. He could. I mean, he could he can whip out an amazing speech, and I mean, he could have done so much.
They all have personality in the one way or the other. You have to have some level of charismatic or something that people kind of say that's kind of cool. I mean, even Bush II, he may not have been the most articulate person, but people saw a guy who just who battled with. He's simple. He battled with drugs and alcohol. He talked about it. He was very open about his struggles. People that could be my cousin, or that could be the guy down there. And they got it. Like he was a rich kid, but really messed up. And so people got it. They dug his story.
Yep. Absolutely correct.
Well,
it's after midnight, yo.
Yep. And I hold I always, I don't care that Bill Clinton had an affair, because if I was married to Hillary, I'd cheat too. On that note, all right, guys, have an awesome night. Good to talk to you both. And
I'm going to do Paris.
Yeah, yes, Alicia Lel. There we go. Now you can translate that. But anyway, I'll talk to you later. It's all good. Thank you, my friends. Good night, both of you.
Bye.
Yep. Bye. All right, that was Ed Delgado and Orlando Owens, and Look them up. Thank you guys. Yeah, 2 hours and 10 minutes. You guys are down. No, but that's what happens. You have great conversations with people, and I like that. I like that. I think we got to do more. I got to start doing like a daytime. We got to do like where we get people in person in a room and have a forum and discuss stuff like this, because we need to have conversations about this. So I don't know. I try to be optimistic. I'm scared. I am truly frightened. I don't know what to expect. There's a lot of rumor out there and stuff like that. I don't know what's true, what's not, so I'm not even going to entertain it. But in the end, I just think that as of right now, it looks like Joe Biden will be president on next week, Wednesday. In the end, he may not have had a clean victory, but unfortunately, good or bad or indifferent, he won. And we're kind of stuck with this mess now. We don't know what they're going to do, but we just got to get into the fight. We got to win that back. If we can win a veto-proof majority in the House and Senate, it'd be hard as hell to do, but it's not impossible. But maybe that's the one way we stop them. We stop their agenda in their tracks, but they could do a lot of damage in 2 years. So those of you never Trumpers, I'm just going to come out and say it. Screw you. You're not conservatives, because you were willing to give the reins of power to Kamala Harris. I don't give a crap that she's a woman or what nationality she is or anything like that. She's a left-wing extremist. And those extreme views are now going to be in power. The AOCs of the world now have a voice in the White House. All because you guys didn't like Donald Trump's style. So this is your fault. You can own it. So thought I'd end on a positive note. But just remember, everybody, the American dream is still alive, I think. I hope. You guys can argue over what is legitimate or illegitimate. I don't know. I just don't know. But don't stop fighting and don't stop getting the message out there. Have an awesome night or morning now. I appreciate you guys hanging on as long as you did. I know it's late, but hey, I'm worth the wait. Talk to you soon. Good night. Bye.